Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome, or maybe it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Wise Ones. Joining me for this and every show is my friend, my book coach, someone who has made a huge contribution to our platform and also to me personally. His name is red.olaughlin, and in addition to being a co-host of this show, he's also one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. He's also certified as an elevated listener. This means this is someone that you want to get to know. He leads his life with his heart, and he is always going above and beyond for other people. He has an incredible success rate in his life. His repertoire of accomplishments goes on and on and on. Let's welcome him to the show. red.olaughlin. Hi.
Hi, Dr. JACALYN. You're always so kind. And it's always a pleasure, real pleasure to be here with you every week.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm excited. It's for another show, but we have our book coming out, Adversity to Awesome, with our television show, our first live ever book launch on May the 4th, at 3 p.m. So I'm excited to be partnering with you on the second book together.
Okay. Let me give you something to smile about. Your final version, which I believe is exactly what you ordered of your book cover, is done. You have it awaiting you in your electronic mail. So I think we're done. All I need is your thumbs up on that one. And that one's put to bed, and we're right on schedule. I think everything's going to be done with days to spare. So things are looking very, very good right this minute.
Well, thank you so much. That's why it's so good to work with someone who is in the military, keeps you disciplined and on time and on point. Red, we have a great guest backstage. Before we bring her out, I'm going to spotlight you, and I would love for you to share with our audience who is joining us for the first time, especially we've got 3 new radio channels listening in addition to the television platform. Who are you, and what is it that makes you tick?
Thank you so very much, Dr. JACALYN. red.olaughlin. I'm a writer. I write literally every day. My field of expertise is in longevity. I research the human body at the cellular level. Chemically speaking, I look for cause and effect relationships. If you treat a symptom, you'll always treat symptoms. You got to treat the cause of a problem to fix it. That's what I research about. That's what I write about. My first love was chemistry long before I ever met my wife, which will be 54 years in July. And so I use my chemistry background. Nowadays, I couldn't use it earlier in my life because as soon as I got my degree, I got an invitation to Vietnam. And when I got out of that, things just weren't quite the same. Regardless, today I use that information, and I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week to sit there and do the things that I love to do. And one of those is to research and become an expert in the area of aging. I also speak on those topics routinely. I have a show immediately following this one every single Thursday, and it's called Talking Heads. I did a series of lectures on what is a cause of disease, and in particular, neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's and dementia. And not only what is it, what causes it, and what can we do about it? This latest series, I'm on number 6 of 6 this afternoon, beginning immediately following this program. And I have a series based on how to write and publish your book for free. Absolutely no dollars out of your pocket, just your time and energy. And I'm on step number 6 today, which is actually the publishing process. How do you actually get that last little push the button, and that book is now live and available to the world. And that's going to immediately follow the show. And those are the things I do on a regular basis. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. JACALYN.
Thank you so much, Red. When you complete this series of 6, what are the next topics that you're going to present on Talking Heads?
I think we're going to go back into health and wellness. There's some areas of interest there that are not necessarily on the aging and longevity, but I think just common sense stuff that people should know about, that most people have no idea in the world, that They're doing, I'm doing 5 things right, but they're doing 10 things wrong, and they have a tendency to cancel each other out, or they're just never aware of it. So I think right this minute, as we're talking, and I knew this question was coming, is what is the next 6 topics going to be? And I think we're going to jump back into the health and wellness arena for a little while.
Outstanding. Well, I'll just share one last comment before we bring out Tina, which is as a result of working with you and listening to you, I am still doing my intermittent fasting every single day for a minimum of 14 hours. So taking it up little by little. On the weekends, it's about 16. So thank you for sharing that with me and helping me get my autoimmune condition in check and get my immune system stronger.
Anytime whatsoever. I think it's time for Tina, don't you?
Yes, I would love for you to introduce her.
Tina, I met through another organization. We had a similar things, a lot of talking heads going back and forth, bantering, and Tina and I kind of connected, and then I caught her and we did more than a little bit of time. She was down in Mexico with her husband. But Tina is in the what you would call an optimal performance specialist. She's also in sports psychology. She does a lot of things working with CEOs and senior management, and she has an amazing ability to get right to the bottom line, to figure out what is wrong, and this is her skill set. This is what she does really and truly. And I thought, based on that, we ought to be listening to her because she has some real value to share with our audience. So, Tina, welcome to the Wise Ones.
Well,
hi, Tina. Welcome.
So happy to be here.
So nice to have you. And you're joining us from the great state of California.
Yes, I am. I'm really an East Coaster, so I'm still, when people say, where are you from? But I live on the West Coast now. So, yeah.
And where on the East Coast are you from?
Originally Philadelphia and New York.
Me too. How about that?
Well, we got to have a talk. We have to talk.
We have to have a talk about water.
Yeah. Inside joke for those of you.
Yeah.
Recognize
right. Yeah, down here, talk is, I think, a 3-syllable word. I'm from Houston, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Tina, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. We talked briefly backstage, but I'd like to start off with, what would you like the audience to take away from the show today?
Well, it's kind of a takeoff of what Red said and why he and I just kind of hooked up and had so much to talk about. I like to look at the bottom line cause of issues that are psychologically based. Red is more chemically based and inside the body of that, but I'm kind of what goes on between the ears. So the connection between the mind and the body are extremely important. And again, most people kind of try to think their way through problems and out of problems, but we have a whole universe here in the body that gives us many times just instant information.
Tina, how did you get involved in sports psychology and the inner workings of the mind and those kinds of things? Why don't you give us a little lead into what caught your interest and why did you decide to go down that path?
So when I was little, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I got to be a teacher, an elementary school teacher in special ed. And there was a psychologist and a social worker that was coming into the classroom and pulling out the kids one by one to talk about what was going on in the family, what was going on internally. And over time, I thought that's what I need to be doing. That really kind of hits the nail on the head. And so this passion really for problem solving and really kind of looking at root causes of things, I wanted to be a psychotherapist. And I went back to school, got my MSW and started to work, and then realized very early on that my traditional therapy training was kind of inadequate. I worked on a unit for eating disorders. It was one of the first ones in the country. And they handed us a book and said, alcoholism, crossed it out, put eating disorders. And then they said, there you go, to beginning therapist. And I used to say to the young women, I said, I hear you, I don't feel you. And intuitively, I knew that if I didn't feel you, you weren't going to change. So my whole career has really been about answering that question, how do I get under the conscious mind? And that took me, because that's where all the action is, that's where all the change work happens. So that took me into spiritual work and spirituality And then my father was a great athlete, and I love sports, and my kids were very, very good soccer players. And I used to say, I don't know a lot about soccer, but I know a lot about psychology. So sports psychology and Eastern thought and mind, body, and peak performance and flow, it's all part of the same toolbox. And as I said, I used to listen to people that would talk about the mother, father, sister, brother, but it's like, how do you handle this situation where you're going for a job interview or having a difficult conversation with somebody? So that teacher at heart is really the one that's operating.
One of the first books I read that really captured my attention was by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, called Psychocybernetics. And from that particular book, it told me how and why we think the way we do. And I know one of the first steps that you go into is negative image or things like that. And I know Dr. Maxwell Maltz talks about, our self-image is really the key to a lot of what's going on. Would you care to go down that road and let people know what
just a little bit? My connection to self-image and body image is really working with women with eating disorders and the distorted images that they had. And when you do this level of work, you have to do your own work in order to be able to. I love the saying, you cannot take a person to a place that you haven't been. So everything that I teach is something that I have gone through myself. And what I started to recognize and learn about was that the body image is formed around 13 years old. And right around 12, 13, I was kind of chubby. And I had a brother that reminded me that I was chubby. And then I slimmed out, but I still have that image. I recognize that fat is not a feeling. It's actually, it's something that's real in terms of you get on the scale. But so many people incorporate that as feeling fat. So that's the association with body image. And then when you stop the nutrition that feeds the brain, there's a lot of distortion.
Well, that distortion can lead into self-doubt, I imagine. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just the body that's distorted. We have so many thoughts about ourselves and stories that we've made up and ways that we've learned to protect ourselves from situations that children really don't have answers for. And we take them into adulthood, and they're frequently the things that stop us as we try to move forward. They're the obstacles that we keep meeting over and over and over again.
So you have a fairly, I'm sorry, Dr. JACALYN, did you say something?
Yes, I was just going to ask a follow-up question. Thank you. Tina, you had mentioned about at the age of 13 or 14, you were told something and then you took it to heart, and something similar happened to me. And I think it happens to a number of people. So my question is, at some point when we're first born until a certain age, we're innocent and naive. And when people put things on us, they label us. And then as we get older, we're stuck carrying the baggage. So I've always thought I'm fat. It doesn't matter what my weight is, doesn't matter how strong I am. Every time I look in the mirror, I go, oh, you're disgusting. Still to this day. So my question is, how do we as intelligent, rational people, how do we take what we were labeled when we were younger and look at it and go, okay, this is no longer relevant, when the feelings are still there?
It's the crux of the problem and the crux of the question. Feelings, they're not rational. So we have two parts of ourselves. We have the logic, which is very rational, and then we have the emotional side, which has a completely different language. So in the work that I do, it's really learning to understand the language of the unconscious, the language of feelings. So let's just say we take this feeling of I feel fat. And even though factually the scale says I'm not fat, I don't fit into that category, but the feeling is. So if I stop for a moment, and you can do this with me and the audience can do it with me, is if you just stop and find the place in the body where I feel fat lives. Sometimes it just takes a moment. And Dr. JACALYN, if you'd like to be, the one that we do this with, this little exercise.
Sure.
What do you notice? What do you notice?
When I think about it, It's because it's always my stomach.
Mhm.
It's always like right below the belly button. I just think like, why are you here? I work so hard to get rid of you. I do so much work. And it's like, why are you here? I feel like you're here just to, it's sort of like a slap in the face every day that I have to keep pushing myself harder.
Okay. So I actually have a TED Talk coming up, and it's called Befriend Your Inner Enemy.
Wow. Tell
And
us. Yeah, I want to hear about that.
so this is it. So you could actually have a conversation with this part of yourself, because we have parts of ourselves that grow up at different ages, and that some parts get split off. And so this part of you is still very young. And again, there's saying that I love, all behavior has a positive intent. We don't ever grow up to self-flagellate and beat ourselves up. And yet we wouldn't treat our worst enemies. You wouldn't go up to a young woman and say, God, you are fat, you are disgusting. And yet somehow you say it to yourself. And so that little girl just continues to shrivel up and kind of get, more determined to kind of, well, yes, I am. Yes, I am. So if we had a conversation with her, just, why are you here? And just wait, Dr. Jack, wait for an answer. Why are you here?
How long will it take for the answer to come? Is it coming by carrier pigeon, or is it like
Well, frequently, if you just sit for a moment. So when you put your attention and your intention on a spot in the body, the sensation of the spot, it will begin to start to awaken the cells, the kind of memory cells. And you can, again, everybody's experience is different, but I've done this so many times. So in general, we start to calm down, or we have an insight, or we have a memory, or it's like, oh yeah, I remember when that person in the schoolyard called me fat. Oh, and then you can start to, as we have consciousness, now we can have some choice. As long as it's deeply unconscious, it has us and we don't have it. So if we start to, again, have that conversation, and, for me, I can go back to my brother. I love him dearly, but he put kind of that thorn in my side. So what I have learned to do around this weight thing is I kind of call it sort of a handicap. When you play golf and you have a handicap, you get a little extra points. Well, I get a little handicap for this irrational thought. And when I feel fat, I can say to myself, well, fat is not a feeling. Your weight is XYZ. And this is still something that can still be cleared. And we could do a little bit more work on it. There's ways to get into the unconscious mind. I go like this because there's a process called eye movement desensitization reprocessing is one of the ones I use, or tapping is another one. Ways that shift this unconscious material that we cannot, and I repeat, cannot access through the logical mind. So I hope that helps in just a little bit. We could do some more work.
Does. Yes, thank you. Red, I don't want to leave you out. Do you want to be part of the experiment?
Yes, I have a little area down below my belly button also that has a tendency to tell me it's a little bit too big for me when I'm wearing certain kinds of clothes. Otherwise, it's just, it's there, but I don't notice it. But every so often it gets kind of hemmed in. And yeah, I kind of notice that a little bit more than other times. But actually,
the other thing that I want to add, since I just had a conversation with a parent of a young woman who's 14 and anorexic, is we've been had by the media, women in particular, men too, kind of have come along with this, but we have been had. The media spends a lot of money to attract us to things that are not healthy for us. And Red, you can talk about this just as well. And I have to have for a little compassion for myself, and Dr. JACALYN, the same thing for you, is you came by this kind of honestly. You didn't do this on purpose to yourself. So I just want people to really understand that the media spends a lot of money to capture our attention, to go against things that are necessarily good for us.
Yeah, it's true. And I just want to add in something. There's a social media platform that we don't stream to because they won't permit it. So I won't say which name. But when you're on there, it's everyone's beautiful and everyone's this and thin and in great shape and rich. And this. And I find myself not going on there as much because I just feel kind of
Yeah,
sad. I don't know, like just not
yeah.
like just don't measure up. So, what are your thoughts about the social media and how that's influencing the body
It's
image?
the same thing. I mean, you personally, any one of us could project anything that we want. You know, I can only put the big pictures of my fabulous vacation in Mexico, but nobody knows that my passport didn't come and I missed 3 days of my vacation. You know? And then my husband lost his boarding pass, and by the time we got home, we were stressed out. That's before we left. You know, we don't show that. We just show it. You know?
That's the
So,
last vacation we're taking.
but the
Sure.
point is that you can create anything. You know, I just did a conference. I was a student in a conference on ADD, and the guy was a fabulous teacher, and he was saying the same thing. You know, these kids, in terms of what, you know, what's capturing their attention and screen time and all the conflict that I have a 4-month-old grandchild and a 4.5-year-old, and you know their parents are always talking about how do I keep them away? It's so mesmerizing. It's, you know, and these media companies spend a fortune to capture them, and so we have a lot of work to do. I love it. He called it green time instead of screen time,
Hmm.
and being very thoughtful and careful. One of the things that I talk about, I think that Red, that you started to talk about, was it's called productive thinking. Rather than positive thinking, you know, oh, I'm so thin, oh, I'm so beautiful. It's really, do my thoughts produce something useful for me? So going back to how we might talk to ourselves and, oh my God, you're so fat, you're so ugly, you're so disgusting. Where is that going to take me? Is that going to take me to a good place? So how can I change that thought into, I have, you know, this history from my weight from when I was a kid, and I can just be nice to myself. And then how do I feel after that? Well, that produces something useful for us. So learning how to become aware. Everything that I say it starts with awareness, awareness, awareness. And the definition of mindfulness is being aware in the present moment without judgment. So again, coming back to that example, I notice how I'm talking to myself rather than just doing it unconsciously. And then, you know, how does that make me feel? And I now have the option to choose something different.
I love that. And I want to hear more about your TED Talk as well. We're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. So stay with us here. We'll be back on the Wise Ones in just a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Meet the modern learner. Like most of us, the modern learner is short on time, on the go, and wants to learn on their terms and device of choice. The key is to meet them whenever and wherever they may be. The solution? Best-in-class content served up by the Engagement Mobile Learning Platform, where the modern learner is at the center of the learning experience. For example, they can receive a text message that alerts them to a new learning module. They simply tap, watch, read and engage, or play a fun learning game. We transform your content into modules that are timely, accurate, academically rigorous, yet engaging and robust. Personality motivators are blended with modern adult learning principles to make it faster and more natural to absorb the content and have fun while learning. Our cutting-edge platform offers something for everyone. It can be an immersive experience where learners explore and engage based on what's relevant to them in that moment, or they can follow a set curriculum, earning badges and tracking points toward a credit or goal, or they can dive deeper into high-value professional content relating to their topic of interest. It's binge learning at its best. All this, along with an entire portfolio of real-time usable data and KPIs for stakeholders. Imagine, share up-to-the-minute news, enhance current curriculum, build knowledge banks, drive sales, and foster community in the push of a button. To learn more or see a demo, please contact support@engagement.com.
Take a moment.
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 So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is The Wise Ones, and I am sharing this screen with two very wise people, my co-host Red and our guest Tina. Tina is the founder and CEO of Mastery Under Pressure. She's a licensed psychotherapist and sports psychology consultant, and she's California's #1 optimal performance specialist. Woohoo! That is outstanding. Thank you for being here today.
That I noticed you work with the CEOs and senior management, and these people didn't get that position because they inherited, they worked their way up. But at some point in time, there's a repeater principle that we've heard about that they're no longer effective or productive or whatever. How do they get there, and then how do they get out of there in order to be more productive? Because you must see this on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, really good questions. How do they get there? I think you have to have a certain personality to be on a mission, to keep moving forward, and handling, whatever comes your way. One of my mentor good friends has been the CEO of and the CMO of different companies. I think the average is about 4 years or so. I may be wrong on that statistic, but you have to have drive. I just saw something today in LinkedIn. In order to be a leader that has an idea, you have to have courage. You have to be willing to be able to deal with all kinds of things and all kinds of people. Just having another conversation with another client who's now looking for his next position. And in my experience, the people that really are successful, they may be financially successful with their company, but the ones who are masterfully successful are also emotionally intelligent. And again, the kinds of schedules that people have and the willingness and the ability to put their lives at a not necessarily on hold, but some of the issues and the problems that I see, and that, because I've been privileged to work with people individually and been really a trusted advisor, some of the family issues really get in the way, are a problem. Children that are distant, so much responsibility. So you have to be really, really, really good at, kind of taking care of your time, taking care of your people. One of the last things frequently that happens is how they take care of themselves.
You mentioned the term emotional intelligence, and previously it said you need to start with awareness. So how do you get a high vis, senior VP or CEO, even aware that he has a need to assess his emotional intelligence and to improve it?
So I think what happens as people move up the ladder, the responsibilities become greater and the pressure becomes greater. And so either it comes from somebody who's above them, like one of my clients wasn't just really paying attention to a lot of the things that he needed to pay attention to. And there was a problem flying across the country and drinking a little bit too much and not having a really good leader who was on top of him. So part of it was his own issue, and part was the management that was coming from just right above. So sometimes we get ourselves into trouble. I've had more than one client who's had DWIs and said, wow, I really have to do something about this. Another client who was promoted to the C-suite, and he said to me, I don't need your help. It was a CTO. He says, I don't need your help with the technical stuff. I have a whole company behind me. I need your help with the emotional stuff. And as we started to talk, and I'd say, well, kind of what gets in your way? What are some of the obstacles? He said, I get a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism. He said, I take it in. Nobody knows how it feels. He said, but inside I feel crushed inside. And so that led us back again to kind of like, well, what kind of family did you grow up in? And, did you have critical parents? And oh my God, they were so critical. And we had to have an A. The A- was not good enough. And so it's always really about connecting. Either the universe will give you the issue, or somehow or other you want to move forward and you're just not. And you don't know why, and you don't know how to get beyond it. And that's my biggest message to people, going back to Dr. JACALYN with the TED Talk, is it's not that people don't want to do better. They do. They just frequently don't have access or the tools in how to really kind of move themselves along and handle these kind of issues that are kind of very elusive. So I think that's how it kind of shows up one way or the other.
Well, I know that you use fear as a teacher as part of your repertoire of skills that you have. How do you identify really and truly you're using the right fear and actually using it as a teacher? I can see, well, I think it's this one over here, but then I'm not sure how to, that to me seems to be a crux in and of itself, of a crux that could be a major problem in life.
Right. So we come back again to the body. The body tells us, there's a wonderful book by Bessel van der Kolk, who is the father of kind of this mind-body trauma work. The body tells all. So let's just say I have a client now who's afraid of flying. Now, it wouldn't be necessarily that somebody who has moved up high in an organization where they have to travel all the time, but even people who have to travel sometimes have the secret fear of flying. And so as we kind of worked with it, where do you feel it? In my chest, in my neck, in my heart. And then we start to track back, where else have you found this feeling? Is it just on airplanes? No, I actually can't stand being even on the subway, where people kind of get close to me. And God, I remember my household where my parents were fighting and there was a lot of noise, and I would go hide somewhere. And so there's a string of information, and I'm just using these examples, but they're infinite. There's only so many themes in the universe, but there's an infinite number of variations, and everybody has their own story. So when you say, Red, how do I find that fear? we just start with the present. A lot of therapies start with the past and let's go all the way back. No, I only go to the past when it's pertinent to what's happening in the present. So most people's, kind of way that they deal with fear is we want to avoid it. Something comes along, it feels scary. We go like this and we avoid. And then we never learn what it's about. We never challenge it. We don't move through it, and it keeps us stuck. So let's just say this woman who said, I'm scared of flying. And we start to really look at it. What's it made of? Some people might have a completely different MO as to why they're afraid of flying. Hers was a completely different story. So as we start to get into your story, now we have something that's conscious, something to work with. And then we can bring in a lot of the other tools that we have in our toolbox to help move the energy of the trigger. And that's really kind of the thing that's driven my work, is because the body gets triggered before the mind, how do I get to this part? And fears are just a great way to kind of get inside. And then we can learn from them.
I know both Dr. JACALYN and I are very interested in your TED Talk. And we're running pretty close here on schedule, getting ready to end up things. But would you go into how did you get, I assume this is your first TED Talk, is that correct? If I remember from our earlier conversation. Tell us how you got the TED Talk and why this particular topic, and what do you expect the audience to take away? What value are you giving them in this TED Talk?
So the how I got to do it goes back to the question of how do people become successful? This is not an easy thing. And it was on my bucket list. I love to speak. I love to teach. I love doing what we're doing right now. And so all the things that we're talking about, I've had a passion to share at a honestly a global level, because these are tools that people can learn and they can use. And this is sort of my little slice of the universe of how we could achieve world peace. We can communicate, we can talk, we can raise our level of awareness and, all the other things that come with it. So I had my idea. I started to research a little bit, and I am a pretty experienced speaker, but I haven't done a TED Talk. And I knew that there's a certain model that TED uses to accept talks. So I did a little research, I got some names, and I interviewed a couple coaches, and I hired a coach. It cost me a good amount of money to hire her. She was a very experienced speaker coach. We went through 10 iterations. First, I wrote it, then she reviewed it, then she critiqued it over and over and over again. And then it was actually it was a group coaching program. So I got to give the talk to the group. And then they would say, oh God, you got to cut this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. So you have to be able to take feedback and not be attached to the outcome, because they actually were giving me the information that I needed. So it was 10 iterations. Then I put together a pitch video. And the first one was terrible. The camera was terrible. The sound was terrible. Then I have a neighbor who's a videographer. He gave me, and so I did the first one, and then I sent it out again for more evaluations. Well, it wasn't this, and if you'd done that. And so I did another one, and then I started sending them out. And so I actually only had to send out about 4 or 5. But I was prepared for 80, 85 is kind of what I hear. So that's kind of the background of just my determination something that I really wanted. And I think I told, it's really about befriending the enemy within, because just as we so beautifully kind of looked at, Dr. JACALYN and I have a similar thing around our bodies, and we look at it. And so I want to teach people how to befriend themselves. I listen over and over and over again. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. And we actually all are. It's just there's a hidden universe, and part of what I talk about in the TED Talk is I'm the AAA for my clients, and I'm also starting a program. It's called Under the Hood, to start to get to some of these issues flushed out, so that people can normalize them. You start to scratch the surface with people who pretend, like on social media, that everything's great. This one's got this going on in their family. This one's got bipolar in the family. This one's depressed. This one's anxious. This one has, you name it. So that's it.
Well, congratulations. That certainly is a commitment that you have made. I just have one quick question. When you mentioned sending out 4, you thought you were going to have to send out 80. What do you mean by that? Send out what to whom?
Applications.
Applications. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And so each TED Talk, so there's TED and then there's TEDx.
Mm-hmm.
So TEDx is under TED. And so this is a TEDx talk, and they're all over the world. So if you want to travel, you can apply to, as many as you want all over the world. And they have, each one of them has a theme. Each year they have a theme. And so the one that I'm doing, it's in Grand Junction, Colorado, and it's reimagining yourself. And so my talk fit into that theme. And then, and there it was.
I can easily see where reimagining and the visualization that you use in your work marry up very, very neatly, actually.
Yeah. So
when are you giving this TEDx?
June 18th.
Well,
so
congratulations. You'll have to come back and see us and tell us how it went.
I would love it. I've got the whole thing, and now I got to start memorizing it.
It's exciting. That's on my bucket list as well. So
happy to share.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. And I truly would like for you to come back and visit us again on this show or any of our other shows. We've got 28 live shows this week, so there's certainly a multitude to pick from.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you again, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.
She was really very inspirational, and she helped me with even, I think I should name this body part. I'm going to call it. No, go away. It. No. And Red, you shared you have a similar thing. Maybe it's just we get to be over, I'm going to say 30. I'm just over 30, and we get a little blob under our belly button. Do you think that's it?
Not only do I know it, there's a lot of things that happen when you cross that 30, 31, 40, 41, 50, 51 threshold. And it's just part of life. And as those changes happen, what you used to eat and do as a 20 something, and you do the exact same thing later on, and it's not producing the same results. I mean, I can remember when I could go out and do this and lose 5 pounds, boom. Not quite the same. Now I've been very successful during Lent. I had kind of a goal to lose so many inches, and I lost 4 inches during Lent, which is, to me, I think it wasn't 7 I wanted, but 4 I think is a pretty good dent. And 40 days or whatever, that's 7 inches in 40 days is probably unrealistic. But it's, again, my goal right now is not so much to have a certain weight on the scale as to have a certain number of inches around the waist that clothes fit more comfortably. And so it's maybe a little bit of both caloric reduction, more caloric, selection, but also maybe some increased exercise that I haven't been doing for a while for who knows what other reasons. But anyway, yes, there's an area that periodically, and it's not something that I think about or dwell about or bothers me when I look in the mirror per se, but it's there. I notice it. It's kind of hard to disregard it, but it's not something that just jumps out. Yeah, you got just it's there. Okay. Fine.
No, mine's always like, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Well, we're digressing, but it was lovely having Tina here. And I especially love the commitment that she shared. She has this dream, this bucket list to get on the TEDx stage, which you remember one of our team members, Ben Chai, he gave a whole presentation about how to get on a TED or TEDx, because he's done it, I think, 4 or 5 times. And it's quite a process. And I think it's something that you can put on your resume or your CV, or just know inside, wow, look what I just did and what I shared. And I really didn't know that there was an extensive commitment like that. That's major. And I really take my hat off to her for that.
Well, we're ready to end this program and join each other again here very, very shortly. So I'm going to end from my position here and get ready for the next one. Is there anything you would like me to do before we say sayonara?
No, I just wanted to play that music, which means we have to close out the show. All right, friends, we're going to close out and we're coming right back. Red is going to do his expert presentation on our Talking Heads platform. As he mentioned in the beginning, this is his 6 of 6. And then this topic is how to publish your book for free. Absolutely no money out of your pockets. And then he'll be coming back with another series focused on health. So thanks again, Red. What's the best way for people to reach out to you and connect?
The best way is through my email, either through my website, which is red.olaughlin.com. That's red, R-E-D, like the color, O'Laughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, red.olaughlin.com. And I can be reached at red@red.olaughlin.com or red.olaughlin@gmail.com. So it's O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. So it's red O'Laughlin. Red@red.olaughlin.com or red.olaughlin@gmail.com. Those are the two easiest ways to reach me. I check those quite frequently.
Thank you, Red. And if you can't reach him, you can always email me because he meets with me 4 times a week. He's probably so sick of me at this point. But anyway, thank you, Red. I'll let you get over to the other studio and I'll just close out the show.
I am running as soon as I get off here and I'll be ready for the next one. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now.
Well, everyone, I just want to share a few announcements with you, especially if you're joining us for the first time. We do have some exciting new shows that are coming, and I always extend this opportunity. If you have an idea for a show, if you'd like to be part of our family here at USA Global TV and Radio, please reach out to me because our platform continues to grow and grow. It's just amazing. And a lot of it is because of ideas that have been brought to me by other people. And so I welcome that. So let me just share a few things. The first thing is our reunion show is coming up. This is May the 1st. This is 6 hours of live streaming. It's on a Sunday, and anyone who signs up can have been a guest or never been on our platform. This is not an interview show. This is a promotion platform. So you get 15 minutes of airtime to promote your business, your service, your product, your song, your book, your speaking engagement, whatever it is. So if you're interested, I will be posting how you sign up. It's very simple. Go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, book your session. Okay, next, for those of you who don't know, in addition to running this platform, I am also a certified life and career coach, a certified meditation teacher, and a certified yoga instructor. And I teach people how to listen at an elevated level, and I certify them. If you're interested in listening at an elevated level, please go over to my other website, drjacalyn.com. And your first step would be to join our community, the Elevated Listening Community. Okay, final announcements. Some of our new shows, we have our Talking Heads, which I already shared. Red is one of our Talking Head experts. We also have our Talking Heads panel, and we did our first episode. You could see some of our experts who were there, and I gave them a subject to discuss literally right before the show began. They thought they were going to be talking about homeschooling, and as I hit the live button, I told them we're going to be talking about banning of plastic, pro or con. So if you're interested in being a talking head, reach out to me. You'll have your own 30-minute show and you can present your expertise. And then finally, we have the Power of Listening courses. I mentioned that I teach people how to listen. Our next certification course is May the 10th. It's 2 parts. It's actually 3 hours long. And then you'll take a quiz. When you get 100%, you become certified as an elevated listener, which means you get to be on our television show, The Listening Mentor. You get to have your picture and your bio up on my website, drjacalyn.com, and you're part of our team. We have 3 teams here. We have co-hosts, we have talking heads, and we have elevated listeners. So that's all I have for now. Please stay where you are. We'll be back in less than 10 minutes with our Talking Head show featuring Red O'Laughlin. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Tina. Bye.